I don't know if any of you have ever heard a guy conversation. Some of you guys have heard it, but you didn't hear it, you experienced it. And but a guy conversation, for all of you girls in here that don't know, usually start with something like food, like, and we rub our stomachs. And we love to have either saltine crackers or cone dust in our mouth, because then you can like go, and it like blows dust all over the place. It's really cool. Okay, so that's how it starts. And then a guy conversation will usually go into like sports or something. That's usually when funny smells begin to emerge. And then eventually a guy conversation gets to the topic of girls. Now this is, by the way, this isn't a healthy guy conversation. It's just a typical guy conversation. Gets to the topic of girls, and right when we got to the topic of girls, God went, kink, kink. Erica, remember? This is our area. And so I sort of drifted off into La La Land. You ever been there?
Yeah,
it's a nice place.
it's my favorite place.
So my buddies keep talking about girls, and I'm off in La La Land because this was my area with God, and I was thinking about this. And I had a thought that night in that McDonald's that I'd never had in my entire life. It's going to seem like a very basic thought, and I'm sure you've had it many times. But I had never had this thought. This is really weird. But I had this thought, if God's plan and purpose for me is marriage, then that means that the girl that I'm going to marry is alive. Okay, now I know that you probably had that thought. If God's plan and purpose for you is marriage, that means that that person is alive. But to me, my future spouse had always been a concept. She'd been an idea. She wasn't real. She didn't have feelings. She didn't think. She didn't have a hair color. For some reason, I had this thought that when I finally said hello to her, she would become real. And she'd become my future wife. But here was a different paradigm, and that was that my future spouse is out there somewhere right now, living and breathing, thinking, feeling. I wonder where she is. I wonder what she's doing right now. Isn't that a weird thought? Imagine you're going to get married someday, and imagine what is your future spouse doing right now. And so I thought, I wonder if she's in this McDonald's. I looked around, I remember thinking, I hope not. Was that my future spouse is out there somewhere right now, living and breathing, thinking, feeling. I wonder where she is. I wonder what she's doing right now. Isn't that a weird thought? Imagine you're going to get married someday, and imagine what is your future spouse doing right now. And so I thought, I wonder if she's in this McDonald's. I looked around, I remember thinking, I hope not. And then my thoughts began to decompose because I had this thought, wait a minute, Friday night, full moon. She better not be with a guy. And then I pictured some guy slithering his snake-like arm around my future wife's shoulder. His legs would be doing this too. Puckering his unbridled, oversized lips and kissing my wife. Okay, now some of you are saying, hey, it's just a kiss, Eric, it's harmless. Hey, if there's anyone married in here, and if you were to find out when you come home later tonight that some guy or some girl had been kissing your spouse, you wouldn't feel too good about it. Okay, those lips are meant for only one other set of lips. And so I was a little upset, to say the least, picturing this unbridled guy. And I made a fist with one of my hands, and I plunged into my other hand. I'd already finished the cone, don't worry. Never asked my buddies what they thought, but I was furious. God in his ever-sensitive, tender way. Eric, you really desire purity in your wife, don't you? Better believe it, God, she's going to be pure. Well, Eric, that's wonderful. You know, I desire purity too, but just think. If you desire purity in her, how much more do you think she desires purity in you?
Amen.
Me? I'm sitting in a plastic yellow booth with a whole bunch of guys. I'm innocent. Eric, in you. See, God knew exactly what he was doing. He was pinning me into the corner. He said, Eric, if you desire that, then what do you think she desires of you? She feels right now, Eric. She has desires right now. Are you loving her right now? If she came into your life, would she feel honored and cherished if she was watching you? If she could see your thought life? If she could see you interacting with the opposite sex, would she feel cherished? Because she is real. And if you're going to commit your life to her, if you're going to say, I'm going to love you, and I'm going to be a great husband to you, then be a great husband now, even before you meet her. You ever thought about this? That you are not on the open market. Amen. You're not just available to any.
Amen.
You're taken.
Amen.
Seems strange, like I wish I felt more taken. You as guys are supposed to be one-woman men.
Amen.
And you as girls are supposed to be one-man women.
Amen.
That is a really awkward thing to say, but
Amen.
one-man women. One-man women? Okay, don't look into that any further. But you're taken. You're not on the open market. God has a plan for your life. You must submit to Him and say, God, you orchestrate it. You direct the ship. I remember when I was going through this process, and I was at this, some of you have read When God Wrote Your Love Story, know the story. I was around all these camp counselors, and they were all going around talking about their love life, whipping out their photos of this guy or girl back home. It was really awkward. Okay, it's going around because they were about to get to me. And God had done this whole work in my life. What am I supposed to say? How do you articulate this? Please, you can do it better than what I did. Okay, I had no models for this. I had no idea what I was talking about at the time. So they got to me and, so Ludy, what do you got? You know, tell us about it. I'm sure you got a girl out there. I'm waiting on God. What? What are you doing? Yeah, I feel like God has a girl for me, and I'm just waiting for Him to bring her to me. And they're looking at me like, what in the world's your problem? This guy stuck his finger across the table. His dad was a state senator. He was sort of the leader of the group. Right across the table at me, and he says, I totally disagree with you. And he says, I believe that God, we pick whoever we want, and then God blesses it. What am I supposed to say to this? And so I said, look, all I know is that every relationship I've been in has been an absolute disaster. And if God lined up 10 girls in front of me and said, Eric, you pick, I would fall down flat on my face and say, God, you know me better than I know myself. You pick.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
He gives me the choice. I give it back to Him. It's His business. My future is not my own. It belongs to Him. We have that pen, and we have our future. And I want you to realize that you can begin to live with two eyeballs watching.
Yes.
Eyeballs. They're not quotation marks. I know that they look like it, but they're eyeballs. You know who they belong to? These are technically Leslie's eyeballs. She doesn't like the term. She's like, eyeballs, Eric? If you just said eyes, it would be a lot better. But eyeballs, because they're floating for me. This is the way it was. When I was in college, I had my future spouse watching me at all times. I want you to have two eyeballs watching you. Your future spouse is there. He or she, depending on which angle you're looking at it from, is watching. And he or she feels. They have desires for your life of how you're living it right now. And so here was my great test. I wanted to be able to invite all the girls that I knew at college to my wedding. That they could be able to come up to my future spouse and say to her, Eric has always only had eyes for you.
Amen.
Could you imagine?
Yeah.
So girls, guys, to begin to have a testimony. All of you want to be faithful to your spouse. If I were to say, how many of you want to cheat on your future spouse? Well, that would be awkward. Can you imagine raising your hand? Yeah, just try it a little. You'd probably be mobbed in here. Someone would